Tonight, we plunge into the chaos of June 6th, 1944, the night American paratroopers dropped into enemy territory armed with little more than faith and flawed maps. Odds are, you won't survive this journey, but at least you'll have a front row seat to one of history's most harrowing nights. Before you settle in, hit that like button and subscribe, but only if you genuinely vibe with my content. Drop a comment with your location and local time. Maybe someone halfway across the globe is dozing off to this same story right now. Dim the lights. Crank up a fan for that ambient white noise. Let's dive in. You're perched at the gaping mouth of a C-47's open door, wind howling past your ears as Normandy sprawls below like a shadowy labyrinth. Your parachute was packed by a stranger. Your mission? A jumble of hasty scribbles on a crumpled map. And somewhere down there, German soldiers wait with rifles, machine guns, and every reason to ensure you never touch solid ground again. The first thing you'd notice isn't the adrenaline or the weight of responsibility. It's the cold. A bone-deep chill that gnaws through your canvas jumpsuit as frigid Atlantic air seeps into your helmet. Around you, fellow paratroopers fidget, double-checking gear. Some whisper prayers, others crack hollow jokes. Most just stare into the abyss, praying they don't land in water. Historians still debate whether pre-D-Day training prepared these men for what came next. Sure, they practiced daytime jumps, field landings, and formations, but nothing could simulate leaping blind into Nazi-occupied France at midnight. The real test wasn't the jump. It was surviving long enough to fight back. Speaking of survival, you'd last 5 minutes tops before tripping over your own parachute. Chute deployment back then was a gamble. Some tangled midair, others failed outright. If you were lucky, you'd hit the ground hard but alive. If not, gravity's a merciless teacher. Say your chute opens. Congrats. Now comes the real terror, landing. In theory, paratroopers aimed for designated drop zones marked by signal fires. In reality, those signals were often destroyed before ignition. Pilots flew low, dodging anti-aircraft fire, scattering men miles off course. Oh, and let's not forget the French had flooded fields to thwart airborne landings, a tactic borrowed from the Dutch. Half the paratroopers didn't land on soil. They splashed into knee-deep water, gear dragging them under. Failed to untangle fast enough. Drowning before firing a shot would be a cruel punchline. But let's say you cheat death by water and land safely. Now you're lost. Thanks to botched navigation, moonless skies, and panicked pilots, you're nowhere near your target. Training said to listen for church bells or distant gunfire to orient yourself. But in Normandy's pitch-black chaos, every sound warps. Rifle fire seems closer. Artillery echoes like a heartbeat. And that rustle in the bushes could be a hedgehog or a Nazi patrol. No way to know. You're not alone up here. Hundreds of planes disgorged thousands of paratroopers across northern France, one of history's largest airborne assaults. But coordination is impossible. Radios sputter, visual signals fail in the dark. Everyone's flying blind. Fun fact, many paratroopers carried cricket clickers to ID allies. Click once, 2 clicks back meant friendly, unless the enemy stole the trick, which they did. So when you click into the void, sometimes you get 2 clicks followed by machine gun fire. Yeah, you might get shot by someone pretending to be your buddy. Now picture this. You land in a field, soaked, bruised, disoriented. You shed your chute harness like a second skin. Boots sink into mud. A mortar whines in the distance. Then silence. Then thunder. You crouch instinctively, though it's useless. Your heart hammers. You're alone. No unit. No civilization. Just muzzle flashes lighting the horizon like heat lightning. This is when fear truly sinks its claws in. You're stranded in enemy territory with no bearings, no squad, and no clue what's next. Welcome to D-Day. You slog through mud. Each step a squelching reminder of your helplessness. The air reeks of damp earth and something sharper, burnt metal and cordite. This isn't the drop zone. Training said to regroup at rally points. Listen for signals. But all you hear is whine through hedgerows and sporadic gunfire. The airborne drop was chaos incarnate. You were supposed to land in formation, ready to move as one. Instead, The sky over Normandy resembled a deranged fireworks show, planes weaving, tracers streaking, men tumbling like rag dolls in a storm. Some got stuck in trees, others vanished into flooded fields. A few drifted so far they woke up deep behind enemy lines with no lifeline. They'd warned you about disorientation being as deadly as bullets. They'd drilled maps and compass bearings until your head spun. None of it matters now. No landmarks, no voices, no signal fires, just darkness, noise, and the gut-churning certainty you're not alone. Historians still argue whether scattered landings were a disaster or a twisted advantage. Sure, units fractured, but the confusion also muddled German forces. Isolated paratroopers disrupted entire battalions just by making noise. Not the plan, but survival means adapting on the fly. And that's where you are now, alone, drenched, fighting panic. Every shadow looks like a soldier. Every twig snap sounds like a rifle cocking. You grip your weapon, unsure if you'll use it. Shooting at phantoms won't help, but neither will standing still. Another fun fact, many carried knives not just for combat, but to slit throats of sleeping Germans silently. Brutal? Sure. But in the dark, silence was survival. Most used blades to cut parachute lines or open rations when their hands shook too badly for buttons. You take a shuddering breath and move. A voice calls out, a muffled challenge in English. You know the code words, but hesitate. What if it's a German mimicking Allied calls? The German soldier's laughter fades into the whispering night, but the unease lingers like a slow-acting poison in your veins. Every second you waste crouching in this hedgerow is another second the invasion surges forward without you. With trembling fingers, you loosen your pack straps just enough to ease the weight crushing your shoulders. Can't afford to ditch gear yet, but if you sink into another flooded ditch, you might not get another chance. Your breath comes in ragged bursts as you force yourself upright. The landscape ahead mirrors the nightmare you just escaped. Endless fields, skeletal trees, jagged hedgerows cutting through the darkness like scars. Somewhere out there, other paratroopers are fighting the same battle. Some reach their drop zones, others cower in barns waiting for dawn. A few are already dead. You don't know which group you'll end up in. As you trudge forward, boots suctioning mud with each step, the ground begins sloping downward. Not steep, just enough to make your stomach lurch. Not good. You've heard the stories. Men wandering into drainage ditches thinking they'd found shelter, only to drown in their sleep as water rose. You scramble to climb back up, but the earth shifts treacherously beneath you. Then your foot slips. Cold black water swallows you whole. It's only waist deep, but the current's stronger than expected. This isn't a puddle. It's part of the Germans' elaborate flooding system. Before you can react, it's dragging you sideways. Your fingers claw at a protruding root, muscles screaming as the torrent tries to rip you away. For one glorious moment, you think you've won. Then the root snaps. You're spinning now, helpless as a leaf in a gutter. The current spits you onto a mud bank with the grace of a drunk tossed from a bar. Your gear slams into your ribs. Rifle, ammo, explosives, all the deadly toys that made you feel invincible back in England now, just dead weight trying to kill you. This is the paratrooper's curse. You carry everything. Not just a gun and bullets, but enough supplies to wage a private war. 70 to 100 pounds of gear, grenades, rations, radios, even demolition charges for blowing bridges. In theory, it made sense. Behind enemy lines, reinforcements might never come. In practice, it's like running a marathon with a refrigerator strapped to your back. Historians still bicker whether this loadout was survivable. Some men tried cutting parachute harnesses midair when they saw water below. Sometimes it worked, sometimes they plummeted like stones. Others jettisoned gear during the drop, only to realize too late they'd ditched their ammo. You're still assessing damage when a new sound cuts through the night. An engine, not Allied, German, and getting closer. You dive behind the nearest hedgerow as headlights slice the darkness. The truck rolls to a stop just 20 yards away. Doors creak open. Boots crunch gravel. They're searching for stragglers like you. One soldier lights a cigarette, the ember glowing like a demon's eye in the blackness. Another sweeps a flashlight beam across the field. It grazes your hiding spot, lingers on disturbed mud where you crawled. They've seen something. Tracks? Your discarded gear? Doesn't matter. As the beam swings back your way, you press into the dirt until you taste soil. The Germans murmur. A boot kicks at something. Your abandoned grenade pouch? The flashlight beam dances closer, closer. Then a shout from the truck. The soldiers whirl, scramble back inside. Tires spin gravel as they speed toward the commotion. You don't breathe until the taillights vanish. But you're in no shape to celebrate. Your uniform's soaked, gear waterlogged, body shaking uncontrollably. Worst of all, you're still miles from your objective. Every minute here is another minute the invasion moves on without you. You stagger upright, wringing out your coat. The landscape ahead slopes again, this time into what looks like a drainage ditch. You barely have time to process the danger before your boots sink into quicksand-thick mud. The more you struggle, the deeper you're sucked in until icy water licks at your thighs. Panic surges. This is how they die. Not in firefights, but drowning alone in flooded fields, gear dragging them under. You remember training videos showing men floating with inflated reserves, but yours is buried somewhere in your waterlogged pack. By the time you could reach it, you'd already be under. Kicking wildly, your heel finally finds purchase on something solid, a submerged tree root. You heave yourself up with a gasp, crawling forward like a wounded animal. Behind you, the German truck's rumble fades, but the real nightmare's just beginning. Because now you hear it. Gunfire. Close. Not the sporadic pops from earlier, but controlled bursts. Someone's fighting up ahead. And worse, you realize with dawning horror that you're stumbling straight toward it. The gunfire ahead isn't random potshots. It's a full-blown firefight. Bullets whip through the hedgerows like angry hornets, shredding leaves and kicking up geysers of dirt. You hit the deck instinctively, your cheek pressed into the mud as tracers paint neon streaks overhead. This isn't your fight. This isn't your unit. But right now, you're caught in the kill zone between two forces who'll shoot first and never bother asking questions. A machine gun nest chatters to life 50 yards ahead, the staccato rhythm unmistakably German. MG-42, they called it in training. Hitler's buzzsaw. The thing fires 1,200 rounds per minute, so fast it sounds like fabric ripping. You've never heard one in person until now, and the reality is so much worse than the training films. Would splinters explode from a nearby tree as bullets stitch toward your position? Historians love debating whether friendly fire killed more paratroopers than the Germans that night. The numbers suggest it might have. With everyone scattered, radios dead, and no landmarks, it was chaos. Entire squads got wiped out by their own artillery before seeing a single enemy. You're about to become another statistic when a hand grabs your shoulder. Easy, easy, an American voice hisses in your ear. You trying to get ventilated? You blink up at a mud-caked face. One of yours, maybe. The 101st Airborne patch on his sleeve is barely visible under all the grime. He's got a Thompson submachine gun and the wild eyes of someone who's been fighting all night. Whose? Shut up and move. He yanks you sideways as another burst chews the ground where you'd been lying. You crawl after him through the underbrush, thorns tearing at your uniform. The air smells like cordite and wet earth, with that metallic tang of fresh blood underneath. Someone's hit bad nearby. Someone's dying. The paratrooper leads you to a shallow depression behind a fallen oak. Not quite a foxhole, but better than nothing. 3 other guys are already there, their faces hollow with exhaustion. One's got a bandage wrapped around his thigh, dark red seeping through. Found another straggler, your rescuer announces. A sergeant with a broken nose sizes you up. Unit. You open your mouth, but nothing comes out. Your brain's stuck on the fact that these are the first friendly faces you've seen since jumping, and they look like hell warmed over. The sergeant takes pity. Never mind. Grab a sector and watch for flankers. He tosses you a spare ammo clip. It's half empty. You peer over the log. The firefight's settling into a stalemate. Germans dug in behind a stone wall, Americans pinned down in the tree line. Every few minutes someone tries to rush forward, and the machine gun mows them down. Bodies litter the no man's land between, some still moving. Medic, A voice wails from somewhere to your left. No one goes. The guy who found you. Parker, you learn, nudges your arm. See that farmhouse past the wall? That's where the MG crews hold up. You squint. A two-story stone building with a caved-in roof. The machine guns firing from a ground-floor window, muzzle flashes strobing in the dark. We got a bazooka team coming up, the sergeant says. When they hit that wall, we rush. You nod like you understand, but your hands are shaking so bad you nearly drop the ammo clip. This isn't training. Those aren't paper targets out there. The Germans shooting at you have names, families, maybe kids. And they want you dead. A rustling in the bushes behind you makes everyone spin, rifles ready. Easy, easy. A two-man team crawls into position, one carrying a bazooka tube, the other lugging rockets in a canvas bag. They look about as thrilled to be here as you are. Took you long enough, the sergeant snarls. The bazooka guy, Corporal Hayes according to his helmet, just shrugs. Got lost, like he's apologizing for missing a dinner party. They set up behind the oak, the loader slotting a rocket into the tube with practiced ease. Hayes takes aim, exhales, and whoosh. The backblast scorches the air as the rocket screams across the field. It hits the stone wall dead center in a shower of sparks and debris. For a glorious second, the machine gun stops. Go, go, go. You're up and running before your brain catches up. The world narrows to the farmhouse, your pounding boots, the deafening gunfire. Someone screaming, might be you. Bullets whip past, one tugging at your sleeve like an insistent child. Then the German machine gun comes back to life. The guy to your left, Parker, goes down hard, his leg blown out from under him. He doesn't even scream, just stares at the ruin below his knee like it's someone else's limb. You skid to a stop, torn between helping him and the suicidal urge to keep charging. Leave him, the sergeant roars. That MG's gonna. Another rocket whooshes overhead, this time punching straight through the farmhouse window. The explosion lights up the night, flames licking at the stone facade. No more machine gun. You grab Parker under the arms and drag him forward, his blood slicking the mud beneath you. The farmhouse looms ahead, its shattered windows like empty eye sockets. Inside, someone's moaning in German. The sergeant kicks in the door. What happens next isn't heroism, it's butchery. The Germans still alive inside are torn apart by point-blank gunfire. One kid, can't be older than 18, tries to surrender, hands up, babbling in broken English. The sergeant shoots him in the face. No one protests. You're still processing that when a grenade rolls through the doorway. Grenade. The blast knocks you off your feet, ringing your skull like a church bell. When your vision clears, the sergeant's gone. Just a red smear on the wall where he'd been standing. Parker's screaming again. The bazooka team's crawling for cover. And the Germans are counterattacking. Shadows move outside, silhouetted by the burning farmhouse. At least a dozen, maybe more. They're shouting, not the disciplined orders from before, but raw, angry screams. They want revenge. Hayes fumbles with another rocket, his hands shaking. Cover me. You empty your rifle at the advancing shapes, not aiming, just trying to buy time. The bazooka fires with its signature whoosh, but the rocket goes wide, exploding harmlessly in a field. The Germans keep coming. You're out of ammo, out of luck, out of time. Then, BRRRT, a sound like God zipping his pants, the unmistakable roar of AP-51 Mustang's machine guns. Tracers stitch across the field, cutting the Germans down like wheat before a scythe. The plane banks hard, wings glinting in the firelight, and is gone as suddenly as it appeared. Silence. Parker's stopped screaming. The bazooka team's staring open-mouthed at the sky. The few Germans still alive are running for the hills. And you? You sit down hard in the mud and realize two things. You just survived your first real combat. Dawn's starting to break. The night's almost over. Dawn bleeds across the Normandy sky like a slow-motion explosion. First pale yellow, then fiery orange, finally the washed-out blue of a drowned man's lips. The light reveals what darkness had mercifully hidden. Bodies tangled in barbed wire, faces frozen in final screams, a severed hand still clutching a rusted rifle. You sit slumped against the farmhouse wall, too exhausted to care about the blood soaking your pants. Some yours, mostly other people's. Parker's gone. Not dead, but close enough. The medics loaded him onto a jeep headed for the beach, his leg just a ragged stump wrapped in crimson gauze. He didn't say goodbye, just stared through you with the hollow eyes of a man who's already left this world. The bazooka team, Hayes and his loader, Jenkins, are arguing over a can of cold beans. Normalcy feels obscene here, but war's funny that way. Even surrounded by corpses, the stomach still demands its due. Gotta smoke, Jenkins asks you, wiping bean juice off his chin. You pat your empty pockets. Everything's gone. Cigarettes, rations, that pocket Bible your mother slipped into your gear. Lost in the flooded fields or the mad dash across no man's land. Hayes tosses him a crushed pack. Last one. Make it count. The cigarette trembles in Jenkins' lips as he lights it. First drag. He coughs like a teenager trying to impress girls. Second drag. His shoulders slump. Jesus H. Christ. He murmurs, staring at the farmhouse's bullet-riddled facade. We really did this. No one answers. The question doesn't deserve one. A jeep skids to a stop in the mud, its windshield spiderwebbed with cracks. The driver's a baby-faced lieutenant who looks like he should be delivering newspapers, not body bags. Sergeant's dead? He asks, eyeing the gore on the wall. Hayes nods. Then you're in charge, Corporal. The lieutenant jerks his thumb toward the jeep. Intel says the Germans are falling back to St. Miraglise. We need every able body there by 0800. A collective groan. St. Miraglise is 5 miles northeast, a lifetime's march in your state. The lieutenant ignores it. And watch for snipers. They're leaving behind. Crack. The lieutenant's head snaps back. For a surreal second, he remains upright, a neat red hole between his eyes. Then he topples like a felled tree. The shot came from the woods. Everyone hits the dirt, rifles sweeping for targets. But the trees reveal nothing. Just morning mist curling between the branches like ghostly fingers. Son of a bitch, Hayes breathes. Jenkins starts shaking. Not fear, rage. That was a kid. A goddamn kid. He lurches to his feet, spraying bullets into the tree line. Come out and fight, you yellow. Crack. Jenkins' helmet spins off his head, trailing blood and brain matter. He takes 2 drunken steps before collapsing. Silence. The sniper's playing with you. 1 shot, 1 kill. No wasted ammo. Professional. You press tighter against the jeep's wheel well, the dead lieutenant's hand brushing your boot. His wristwatch ticks mockingly. 6:17. You've been on French soil for 6 hours. 6 hours, and already you've seen more death than most men do in a lifetime. Hayes catches your eye, jerks his chin toward a drainage ditch snaking toward the woods. A plan without words. You'll draw fire. He'll flank. You nod, throat too dry to speak. 3 breaths. 2. 1. You roll into the open, screaming like a madman, rifle blazing at nothing. The sniper takes the bait. A bullet kicks up dirt inches from your face. But Hayes is already moving, low and fast along the ditch. Silence stretches. 5 seconds. 10. Then a single shot from the woods. You brace for Hayes' corpse to come tumbling out. Instead, he emerges wiping his knife on his pants. Got him, he says, like he's reporting a fixed carburetor. The sniper's barely older than the lieutenant. Blonde, blue-eyed, his throat slit ear to ear. A rifle rests beside him, a scoped carabiner 98K, the woodstock carved with 23 notches. 24 if he'd made it. Hayes pockets the sniper's Luger. Let's move. The march to St. Miraglise is a death march in every sense. Every hedgerow hides potential ambushes. Every abandoned farmhouse could be a machine gun nest. You walk point because Hayes outranks you, your nerves so frayed you nearly shoot a farmer's cow. The countryside wakes around you. Birds singing, church bells tolling in the distance, the occasional distant thunder of naval guns. It's obscenely peaceful, like the land itself doesn't care about the butchery happening atop it. Hayes stops suddenly, holding up a fist. You hear that. At first, nothing. Then, engines. Not the throaty roar of tanks, but the higher-pitched whine of motorcycles. German recon. Close. You dive into a ditch as 3 bikes round the corner, their riders scanning the fields. They slow near a crossroads, arguing in guttural German. One points towards St. Miraglise. Another shakes his head. Hayes tenses. They're lost. The lead biker dismounts, stretching his legs. He's close enough you can see the iron cross at his throat. Close enough to smell his sweat. Hayes raises his Thompson. You grab his wrist. Wait. Because you see it now, the bikes are unmarked. No unit insignia, no division patches. These aren't regular troops. They're Gestapo. Or worse, SS. Hayes hesitates, then nods. The bikers never see death coming. Hayes Thompson barks 3 times, stitching across their chests. They drop like marionettes with cut strings. You approach cautiously, rifles ready. The lead biker's still alive, bubbling blood through his lips. Hayes kicks his pistol away. Allied, scum. The German rasps in accented English. Hayes crouches beside him. Where's your unit? The biker smiles, teeth red. Everywhere. Hayes shoots him between the eyes. The bikes yield gold. Maps, orders, a half-eaten chocolate bar. Hayes unfolds a crumpled paper, his dirt-streaked face going pale. What, you ask? He shows you. It's a list, names, coordinates, execution dates. At the top, a handwritten note. Sonder Action 44-6. Eliminate all captured paratroopers. Your stomach twists. They weren't just fighting you. They were hunting you. Systematically. Hayes burns the list with a dead man's lighter. We don't tell the others. The outskirts of St. Miraglise look like a Hieronymus Bosch painting. Burned out tanks. Crucified corpses, some German, some American. A church steeple with a parachute caught on its weather vane. The dead paratrooper still dangling by his lines. Hayes spits. Welcome to hell. The church steeple looms over St. Miraglise like a broken finger pointing accusingly at the sky. That poor bastard hanging from his parachute lines twists lazily in the morning breeze. Some kid who landed right on top of the German garrison before they could cut him down. His boots are missing. Someone stole them before rigor mortis set in. Hayes kicks open the door of what used to be a cafe. Glass crunches underfoot, mixing with spent shell casings. The place reeks of stale beer and something worse. The sweet rot stench of bodies left too long in the summer heat. A portrait of Peyton hangs crookedly behind the bar, the old collaborator's face splattered with what might be blood or wine. Home sweet home, Hayes mutters, sweeping his Thompson across the room. You're about to make a smart-ass remark when the floorboards creak upstairs. Both of you freeze. The sound comes again, a deliberate step, then silence. Someone's up there. Someone trying not to be heard. Hayes motions you toward the staircase, his eyes gone flat and hard. You take point because you're the idiot with the bayonet fixed. The stairs groan under your weight, each step an eternity. Your palms sweat against the rifle stock. That sniper could have been beginner's luck. This is Russian roulette with 5 bullets loaded. At the landing, a shadow moves behind a half-open door. You kick it in with a yell that's more terror than bravery, and nearly bayonet a 14-year-old girl. She's huddled in the corner clutching a butcher knife, her school uniform torn and stained. The fear in her eyes isn't the battlefield variety. It's older, deeper. The kind that comes when soldiers take what they want from a town and leave the survivors to pick up the pieces. Putain de merde, she shrieks, pressing herself into the wallpaper like she hopes to dissolve through it. Hayes lowers his weapon. We're Americans. She doesn't relax. If anything, she grips the knife tighter. Les autres aussi de Saint-Cie. The others said that too. That sits between you like a live grenade with the pin pulled. Hayes digs a Hershey bar from his pack, the one thing he didn't loot from corpses, and slides it across the floor. The girl stares like it might explode. Go on, you say in terrible high school French. Chocolate. C'est bon. She snatches it and bolts out the window with feral grace, disappearing over the rooftops. Hayes watches her go. We should. A burst of gunfire cuts him off. Close. Maybe 2 streets over. You're moving before thinking, boots slipping on broken bottles as you charge into the alley. The gunfire's coming from the town square. A dozen Americans pinned down behind an overturned truck while Germans fire from the mayor's office. No, not Germans. French. Millis. The Vichy regime's pet stormtroopers in their distinctive navy blue uniforms. They're fighting like cornered rats, knowing no quarter will be given. Not after what they've done. A captain with a bandaged head spots you. Flank them. Now, you and Hayes split up. Him going left through a bombed-out haberdashery. You right past the corpse of a militian with his hands still clutching his slit throat. The alley stinks of piss and gunpowder. Your boots stick to something viscous on the cobblestones. Don't look down. Don't think about it. Just, a door bursts open ahead. You spin, rifle coming up, and stare down the barrel of another M1 Garand. For one heart-stopping second, you almost fire on the 82nd Airborne patch. Then recognition hits. Christ on a cracker, breathes the man who packed your parachute back in England. Private Daniel Danny O'Malley, last seen vomiting into his helmet before boarding the C-47. His red hair's matted with blood, but he's grinning like this is the best day of his life. Took you long enough, Danny says, jerking his thumb toward the Millis position. These frog bastards got a machine gun in the post office. As if on cue, the MG-42 opens up again, chewing chunks out of the centuries-old stonework. Danny's squad, what's left of it, consists of 3 grimy paratroopers and a lieutenant with his arm in a sling. The lieutenant takes one look at you and says, "Your reinforcements?" You almost laugh. "We are the reinforcements." The lieutenant's face does something complicated before settling on grim acceptance. Then welcome to Operation Deadstick. Objective, clear that machine gun. Danny slaps your back. "Don't worry, kid. I'll show you how it's done." The plan is Danny's special brand of insanity. 2 men draw fire while the rest rush the post office's side entrance. Guess who gets volunteered for diversion duty? You crouch behind a shattered fountain with some private named Kowalski, trading potshots with the Millis. Every time you pop up, bullets smack the stone inches from your head. Kowalski's praying in Polish between shots. "Ready," Danny yells from across the square. You're about to answer when the Millis machine gunner spots Danny's team moving. The MG-42 swings their way, and you stand up. Not a tactical decision. Pure instinct. You empty your rifle at the post office windows, screaming like a banshee. The machine gunner hesitates just long enough. Danny's team makes it to the door. Kowalski grabs your belt and yanks you down as return fire obliterates the fountain. Marble chips spray your face. "Crazy son of a bitch," Kowalski mutters, reloading with shaking hands. The post office erupts in gunfire and shouts. A militian tumbles from a second-story window, his uniform on fire. Then silence. Danny appears in the doorway, waving you over. All clear. Inside looks like a butcher shop mid-shift. Blood sprays the postal sorting bins. A dead militian slumps over the MG-42, Danny's knife protruding from his kidney. The stench of cordite and voided bowels makes your eyes water. Danny retrieves his knife with a wet schlick. Pro tip, stab upward. Gets under the ribs. You're saved from responding by a commotion outside. The remaining Millis are surrendering, those still alive anyway. The Americans herd them into the square at gunpoint. The lieutenant surveys the prisoners, maybe 20 men in various states of injury. His gaze settles on one, a Millis officer with slicked back hair and a tailored uniform untouched by battle. "You," the lieutenant says. "Where are the rest of your men?" The officer sneers. "Eating breakfast with your mother, Yankee." The lieutenant doesn't react, just turns to Danny. "Find out. What happens next is an interrogation. It's theater." Danny drags the officer into the post office while the others watch the prisoners. The screaming starts almost immediately. Kowalski lights a cigarette with steady hands. "Third one today. You want to feel sick. Want to protest. But all you can think about is that girl's eyes when she said the others said that too." After 5 minutes, Danny emerges wiping his hands on his pants. The officer follows on all fours, sobbing. "Chateau de Bernaville," Danny reports. 2 clicks east. "They've got 30, maybe 40 guys holding our boys in the cellar." The lieutenant nods. "Mount up." As the prisoners are marched away at gunpoint, Danny falls in beside you. "You okay, kid?" You stare at the blood under his fingernails. "Are you?" He grins, but it doesn't reach his eyes. "War's hell. Didn't they tell you?" The road to Chateau de Bernaville is lined with crucifixes, Real ones, not the makeshift markers from town. The Millis strung up resistance fighters here, leaving them to die slowly in the summer heat. The bodies are gone now, but the ropes still dangle like macabre party decorations. Hayes scans the tree line through stolen binoculars. Places crawling with sentries. The chateau looms ahead, a Renaissance relic turned torture chamber. Intel says the Millis have been using it as an interrogation center since '42. The kind of place where people go in screaming and come out in pieces. Danny cracks his knuckles. I'll take point. The lieutenant shakes his head. New plan. He points at you. You're up, kid. The lieutenant's finger feels like a gun barrel pressed between your eyes. Every muscle in your body locks up. This isn't how it's supposed to go. You're the lost puppy who got lucky, not some hardened raider leading assaults. But the lieutenant's bloodshot stare brokers no argument. Intel says they're holding paratroopers in the wine cellar. He says, tossing you a stolen Millis uniform. You look young enough to pass for one of their runners. The wool smells like sweat and betrayal. You shrug it on over your gear, the blue fabric swallowing your frame. Danny helps smear dirt on your face. For authenticity, he says, too cheerfully. Hayes presses a knife into your palm. Blades quieter than bullets down there. The weight of it makes your stomach churn. You've shot men, sure, but killing up close? That's different. That's personal. The chateau's driveway is a gauntlet of potholes and dead leaves. You shuffle forward like you've got every right to be there. The knife a cold secret against your wrist. 2 sentries flank the ornate iron gates. Teenagers playing soldier, their collars unbuttoned in the heat. O.S. Le Capitaine, you bark, channeling every bad war movie you've ever seen. The sentries exchange glances. One jerks his thumb toward the courtyard. Là-bas, avec les prisonniers. Bingo. You're halfway across the gravel when the second sentry calls out. Attends. 2 es nouveau. Your pulse spikes. The knife handle grows slick in your grip. Think fast. Oui. Transfer de can. You force a smirk. Les Américains ont brûlé mon uniforme. It works. The sentries laugh and wave you through. The courtyard stinks of diesel and urine. A half-track sits abandoned near the stables, its machine gun stripped for parts. 3 Millis officers huddle by a cellar entrance, passing a bottle of what looks like real pre-war cognac. Their leader, a paunchy man with a dueling scar, notices you first. Tu es que tu veux. You salute sloppily. Message from town, mon capitaine. The Americans. A rifle shot cracks across the courtyard. One officer drops, clutching his throat. The others scatter as more gunfire erupts from the tree line. Hayes and the lieutenant providing distraction. You dive behind the half-track as bullets ping off the cobblestones. The scarred captain makes a break for the cellar stairs. You're on him in 3 strides, knife flashing. He twists at the last second. The blade grazes his ribs instead of finding kidney. He rams an elbow into your nose. Cartilage crunches. White pain explodes behind your eyes. Sail petit traitor, he snarls, going for his sidearm. You tackle him down the cellar steps in a tangle of limbs. The fall knocks the wind from both of you. His pistol skitters into the darkness. Somewhere below, a voice whispers in English. Holy shit. They're eating each other now. The captain claws at your eyes. You knee him in the groin. He gasps, rolling sideways, right onto your knife. The blade sinks into the hilt. For a terrible moment, you're nose to nose, his brandy breath hot on your face. Then the light leaves his eyes. Panting, you shove the corpse away. Blood pools across the ancient stones, black in the cellar's gloom. Hey, Blue, calls the voice from earlier. Mind unshackling us before the next act. The wine cellar stretches deeper than expected, rack after rack of priceless Bordeaux now home to spiders and rats. And prisoners, dozens of them. Some wear tattered airborne smocks. Others are civilians, men, women, even a few teenagers, chained to the walls like medieval captives. The air reeks of infection and despair. A paratrooper with a broken arm grins up at you. Took you long enough, kid. You're fumbling with the locks when boots thunder down the stairs. Hayes appears, Thompson smoking. We got 5 minutes max before reinforcements. Jesus Christ. Even battle-hardened Hayes pales at the sight. The civilians are worse off than the soldiers, starved, beaten, some missing fingernails or teeth. One woman sobs as you free her, babbling about La Baignoire and less electrodes. Danny arrives with the lieutenant in tow. For once, the wisecracks die in his throat. Report, the lieutenant snaps. The paratrooper with the broken arm, Sergeant McVeigh, salutes weakly. 82nd Airborne, sir. Dropped right into their laps 2 nights ago. These civvies. Local resistance. Been here weeks. A teenage boy lifts his head. His hands are a ruin of burns and broken fingers. They made us watch the interrogations. The lieutenant's jaw tightens. Can you walk? Some can. Some can't. You end up carrying an old man who weighs less than your pack, his breath rattling like dry leaves. Danny takes point up the stairs. Clear. The courtyard is chaos. The remaining militia are fleeing into the woods, pursued by American gunfire. A jeep rolls through the gates, its .50 caliber cutting down stragglers. Hayes helps load the wounded. Where's the medic? Back in town, the driver says. We got. An explosion rocks the east wing. Flames lick at the chateau's shuttered windows. Someone's torched the place on their way out. The lieutenant swears. Everyone move. Now, you're halfway to the gates when the boy with ruined hands tugs your sleeve. The cellar, there's more downstairs. Your stomach drops. More prisoners. He shakes his head. Records. Lists of informants. The mill is kept. Another explosion, closer this time. The chateau's roof collapses in a shower of sparks. Leave it, the lieutenant orders. But McVeigh's already running back toward the flames. Danny curses and chases after him. The heat drives you back at the cellar entrance. Inside, the fire's already claiming the wine racks, bottles exploding like grenades. McVeigh emerges coughing, arms full of ledgers. Got him. Danny's right behind him, until a burning beam crashes between you. For one heart-stopping second, you lose sight of him in the smoke. Then he comes flying through the flames, uniform smoldering. Go, go, go. The gates seem miles away. The old man in your arms whimpers as embers rain down. Behind you, the chateau groans like a dying beast. You make it 20 yards before the final explosion hits. The shockwave lifts you off your feet. You land hard, the old man cushioned against your chest. When your vision clears, the chateau is a funeral pyre. Danny lies nearby, his eyebrows singed off. Well, that's one way to destroy evidence. McVeigh clutches the ledgers to his chest. Not all of it. The drive back to St. Miraglise is a caravan of the damned, walking wounded, trailing blood on the asphalt, jeeps overloaded with broken bodies. No one speaks. What's left to say? The town square has transformed. Makeshift aid stations to the cobblestones, medics moving between cots with the grim efficiency of butchers in a slaughterhouse. A chaplain kneels beside a dying man, administering last rites with one hand while scribbling a letter home with the other. Danny nudges you. Look alive, kid. We're heroes. A general staff car idles near the church, its polished chrome glaringly out of place. The officer inside, a silver-haired man with enough stars on his collar to start a constellation, waves McVeigh over. McVeigh salutes with his good arm. Sir. The general eyes the ledgers. Those what I think they are. Yes, sir. Millis interrogation records. Names, dates, locations of every safe house from here to Paris. A slow smile spreads across the general's face. It doesn't reach his eyes. Excellent work, Sergeant. I'll take those. Something in McVeigh's posture shifts. With respect, sir, these belong to French intelligence. There are families. I know what's in them, the general cuts in. His voice stays pleasant, but the threat hangs in the air like cordite. Hand them over. A beat. 2. McVeigh passes the ledgers through the window. The general tucks them into his briefcase with the care of a man handling state secrets. Get that arm looked at, son. We're not done fighting yet. As the staff car purrs away, Danny exhales through his teeth. Well, that was fucking ominous. You don't realize you're shaking until Hayes shoves a canteen into your hands. The water tastes like metal and dirt. Welcome to the war after the war, McVeigh mutters. The church bells toll noon. Somewhere beyond the smoke, the front moves forward. The church bells have stopped ringing. You notice it halfway through stitching up Danny's burnt forearm. The sudden absence of that metallic clang that's been scoring this nightmare since dawn. The silence feels heavier than the gunfire, more ominous than the distant artillery. Hold still, you mutter, pulling the needle through blistered skin. Danny hisses, but doesn't flinch. Since when did you turn into Florence fucking Nightingale? Since our actual medic got his head blown off. The thread snaps between your teeth. Not surgical grade, just ordinary sewing thread scavenged from a bombed-out tailor shop. It'll have to do. Outside the makeshift aid station, St. Miraglise buzzes like a kicked hornet's nest. Jeeps roar through the square, hauling ammunition crates. Engineers string barbed wire around the perimeter. Somewhere near the church, a sergeant screams at fresh-faced replacements struggling to dig latrines. War's funny that way. However bad things get, someone always remembers to dig shitters. Hayes kicks open the door, his arms loaded with looted German rations. Chow's up, ladies. He tosses a can at Danny's head. Hope you like blood sausage. Danny catches it one-handed. I like anything that ain't K-rations. The blood sausage turns out to be some unidentifiable meat jelly that smells like wet dog. You're too hungry to care. The first bite coats your tongue in greasy salt, but your stomach growls in gratitude anyway. Hayes leans against the wall, watching replacements march past the window. They're gearing up for Cherbourg. Danny perks up. We going? Not us. Hayes jerks his thumb toward your bandaged ribs. Walking wounded get to play garrison with a mop-up crews. You should feel relieved. Cherbourg's a meat grinder waiting to happen. 30 miles of fortified ports and fanatical SS troops. But the thought of staying here, of waiting while others push forward, sits wrong in your gut. Danny reads your face. Cheer up, kid. Garrison duty means real beds. Maybe even French girls who ain't scared of uniforms yet. As if on cue, a scream pierces the square. Not fear, not pain, rage. You're out the door before thinking, rifle swinging toward the commotion near the church. A crowd has gathered, paratroopers, locals, even a few war correspondents with their cameras ready. At the center, a woman in a tattered dress claws at two MPs trying to restrain her. Assassins, she shrieks in heavily accented English. You give him cigarettes. You shake his hand. Between the MPs stands a man in a rumpled suit, his face bleeding from the woman's nails. Not military. Not French. The suit's too nice, the haircut too precise. Civilian. German. A murmur ripples through the crowd. Gestapo. Collaborator. Fucking rat. The German adjusts his glasses with trembling hands. I have papers. Geneva Convention. The woman spits in his face. He interrogated my brother at the chateau. Where's Pierre? Where? One of the MPs sighs like this is just another Tuesday. Ma'am, we gotta process him first. A rock flies from the crowd, striking the German's temple. Blood wells instantly. The MP's tense, hands drifting towards sidearms. Hayes pushes forward. What the hell's going on? An embedded reporter. The kind who wears a pearl-handled pistol, shrugs. Intel officer caught him hiding in a farmhouse. High-value target, apparently. The German straightens, trying for dignity despite the blood dripping down his collar. I am Obersturmbannführer Klaus Reinhardt of the... The name detonates in the crowd like a grenade. Reinhardt. A paratrooper with a bandaged eye shoves forward. You're the butcher of Cannes. Suddenly, everyone's moving at once. The MPs get swarmed under. Someone throws a noose made of parachute cord over a tree branch. The reporter actually starts taking pictures. Hayes grabs your arm. We should. A pistol shot cracks the air. Silence falls like a guillotine blade. The lieutenant stands on the church steps, smoking sidearm raised. Behind him, the general from earlier watches with icy calm. Enough, the lieutenant growls. We're not animals. For a long moment, no one moves. Then the crowd parts reluctantly as the MPs drag Reinhardt toward the church. His face is a mask of smug relief, right up until he sees the general. The color drains from his face. The general smiles. Klaus, how unfortunate. They disappear inside the church. The door shuts with finality. Danny exhales. Well, that's that. But it's not. Because 5 minutes later, the screaming starts. Not Reinhardt's. though God knows what's happening to him in there. This is coming from the cellar beneath the church. A raw, animal sound that raises the hair on your neck. The crowd stirs uneasily. The reporter edges toward the cellar doors, camera ready. Hayes stops him with a hand to the chest. Don't. The reporter blinks. First Amendment says. Cellar's off limits. The lieutenant says, appearing like a ghost at Hayes' shoulder. His knuckles are bruised. His sleeves rolled up past bloody forearms. Official business. The reporter opens his mouth and freezes at the sound of a single gunshot from below. Silence. Then the general emerges, wiping his hands with a handkerchief. He nods to the lieutenant. Wrap it up. The crowd disperses fast after that. No one wants to know. No one asks. You're turning to leave when the cellar doors burst open. Two MPs drag out a figure, so broken it takes you a second to recognize Reinhardt. His suit's in tatters. His face swollen beyond recognition. But it's his eyes that haunt you. The way they dart around like a caged animal's. The way they lock onto yours for one terrible second of perfect understanding. Then he's gone, hauled away to whatever passes for justice these days. Danny whistles low. Guess we know what happened to those ledgers. Night falls over St. Miraglise like a shroud. The square empties of everyone but sentries and the occasional medic checking on wounded. You sit on the church steps, picking at your bandages and trying not to think about cellars or screaming or the way Reinhardt looked at you. Hayes drops beside you, offering a looted bottle of what might be brandy. Medicinal. It burns going down, but the warmth takes the edge off. You pass it back. They really just let him go? Hayes takes a long pull. Intel boys got what they needed. Rest is politics. The brandy makes your tongue loose. And the woman? Her brother? A shadow crosses Hayes' face. He doesn't answer. Somewhere in the dark, a harmonica starts playing Lily Marlene. The notes drift across the square, bittersweet and haunting. Danny appears from the gloom, his eyebrows still missing but his grin intact. Look what I found. He holds up two things, a deck of cards and a bottle of actual champagne. Pilfered from the mayor's private stash. Figured we earned it. You end up playing poker behind the aid station by candlelight, the champagne passed between hands. It's terrible poker. Danny cheats. Hayes counts cards, and you're too drunk to care. Read M and weep. Danny crows, laying down a royal flush. Hayes throws his cards down. Bullshit. That's the third royal flush tonight. Danny's grin widens. Beginner's luck. You're about to call him on it when the air raid siren wails. For one stupid second, you think it's a joke. Then the first flak bursts light up the sky. Jesus Christ. Hayes barks, scrambling for his rifle. They're bombing us. But the explosions aren't coming down, they're going up. The entire sky erupts in orange flowers of anti-aircraft fire. And through it, like something out of a dream, hundreds of parachutes bloom against the searchlights. Not supplies, not reinforcements. Gliders. Danny whoops. It's the Brits. Airborne. The first glider crashes through a nearby orchard, its canvas wings shredding against the trees. Men spill out before it even stops moving, red berets gleaming in the firelight, their accents crisp as they call out positions. The 6th Airborne. D-Day's second wave. A British captain strides past, barking orders to his sergeants. He pauses long enough to take in your stunned faces. Sorry we're late, chaps. Traffic on the M4 was dreadful. And just like that, the war starts all over again. The British arrive like a hurricane made of tea and explosives. Before dawn, the entire square transforms into a bizarre Anglo-American bivouac. Tommies in their distinctive Denison smocks brewing up beside paratroopers frying stolen eggs. The mingled scents of Earl Grey and instant coffee creating a surreal perfume. Bloody hell, mutters a British sergeant, eyeing your makeshift bandages. Did you lot fight the war or a meat grinder? Danny flips him off with his good hand. We've been holding this shithole since midnight. Where the fuck were you? The sergeant grins, unfazed. Got delayed at the pub. A staff car screeches to a halt, spitting out the general and a red-faced British colonel. Their argument starts before the doors fully open. Absolute madness pushing east without securing the flanks first. The colonel snarls, his mustache quivering. The general's smile could frost vodka. We've been securing flanks since H-hour, Colonel. Maybe if your boys had jumped on schedule. Their voices fade as they storm into the church-turned-command center. But the tension lingers like cordite. Hayes spits into the dirt. Politics. You're about to agree when a familiar face emerges from the British ranks. A wiry lieutenant with a burn scar snaking up his neck. Captain Aldershot, who trained with you in England before transferring to the 6th Airborne. Christ alive, he says, clasping your shoulder. You look like death warmed over. The reunion feels like a lifetime ago. Back when war was still theoretical, when jumping into France was just another training exercise with better stakes. Aldershot sobers fast. Listen, we picked up chatter on the way in. The Germans are regrouping at Corentin, if they hold that crossroads. They cut Utah and Omaha off from the rest. You finish. He nods grimly. There's talk of sending everything we've got before they dig in proper. Danny groans. Let me guess. We're everything? The answer comes sooner than expected. The lieutenant emerges from the church looking like he's aged 10 years. Gear up. We move in 30. No fanfare. No rousing speech. Just 30 minutes to check weapons, scarf down cold rations, and try not to think about how every step toward Corentin might be your last. You're reloading magazines when the girl appears. The one from the cafe, her school dress swapped for boys' trousers and a suspicious bulge under her sweater. Pourvu, she says, thrusting a bundle into your hands. Inside, a baguette, 2 apples, and a Luger P08 with its serial number filed off. Danny whistles. That's a war crime, sweetheart. She shrugs. Take it or leave it. You take it. The march to Corentin is a study in misery. Dawn's heat gives way to a steady drizzle that soaks through uniforms, turns dirt roads into sludge, and makes every piece of chafing gear feel like sandpaper. The British move like ghosts beside you, their smocks blending into the hedgerows better than your garish American camo. Aldershot falls in step. Heard about your stunt at the chateau. You adjust the stolen Luger digging into your ribs. Which part? The burning it down or the war crimes? The part where you walked into a lion's den with nothing but a knife and attitude. He grins. Still bats hit crazy, I see. The column halts abruptly. Word trickles back. Forward scouts made contact. Corentin looms in the distance. A medieval town turned fortress. Its church spires perfect for snipers. Its narrow streets ideal for ambushes. And between you and it, open fields. Nothing but knee-high wheat and a single sunken road offering meager cover. The Germans know you're coming. They've had hours to sight machine guns, 0 mortars, dig in Panzerfaust teams. The lieutenant gathers the NCOs. When he returns, his face says it all. We go at dusk, he says quietly. No artillery prep, no air support, just us and the element of surprise. Danny barks a laugh. Surprise? They've been watching us since we left St. Mir, but the lieutenant's already moving, distributing ammunition and quiet prayers. You find Hayes staring at the town through stolen binoculars. See anything good? He passes them over. See for yourself. The lenses reveal hell brewing. German troops digging fresh trenches. A half-track concealed in a barn doorway. And near the town square. Are those? Panzers, Hayes confirms. 2, maybe 3. Dug in like ticks. The binoculars tremble in your hands. Against that, you've got rifles, a few grenades, and whatever the British gliders managed to salvage from their crash landings. Aldershot materializes with a grim smile. Cheer up. Could be worse. How? He jerks his thumb eastward. SS just rolled in. 17th Panzer Grenadiers. The name means nothing to you, but makes Hayes go pale. Fucking fanatics, he mutters. They don't take prisoners. Dusk comes too fast. You crouch in the wheat field, the stalks doing little to hide the 100-odd men crawling towards certain death. The British are on the left flank, their Brin guns providing what little covering fire they can. Every few minutes, a German flare arcs into the sky, bathing the field in eerie white light that forces everyone to freeze like children playing statues. Your knees ache. Your hands go numb from gripping the rifle too tight. The Luger digs into your ribs like a reminder of bad choices. Then artillery, but not yours. German 88s open up from the town, their shells walking across the field in methodical slaughter. The first round lands 30 yards left, showering you with dirt. The second is dead ahead. You roll right as the world erupts in fire and noise. Something wet hits your face. Not rain. Haze yanks you forward. Move, move. The charge is chaos incarnate. Men scream. Guns roar. Flares paint everything in hellish strobes. You run because stopping means dying. Because the lieutenant's waving you onward. Because there's nowhere left to retreat. A machine gun nest opens up ahead, its tracers cutting down 3 Brits mid-sprint. You drop, crawling through wheat and corpses until you're close enough to taste the gunpowder. Grenade. Pin pulled. 1 Mississippi. The explosion knocks the gun silent. You're up and moving before the shrapnel stops falling, leaping over the sandbag position where 2 Germans lie moaning. One reaches for a pistol. You shoot him without thinking. The town's outskirts are worse. Every window hides a muzzle flash. Every alley echoes with death rattles. You stick close to Hayes, your world narrowed to his back and the next corner. A British sergeant waves you toward a half-collapsed bakery. We've got lads pinned down near the square. Hayes doesn't hesitate, covering fire. You lay down a suppressing barrage while the Brits dash across the kill zone. One makes it. The other catches a bullet through the lung. His scream cut short as he drowns in his own blood. Danny's suddenly beside you, his face streaked with soot. Tanks. The first Panzer rumbles into view, its hull-down position making it near invincible. Its machine gun stitches the cobblestones, driving everyone to cover. Hayes curses. Where's the fucking bazooka team? Dead, Danny says simply. The Panzer's main gun swivels toward your position, and a British PIT team emerges from a cellar like avenging angels. Their projectile hits the tank's tracks, sending it lurching sideways. A second shot punches through the vision slit. Inside, someone screams. The battle degenerates in a house-to-house butchery. You clear buildings room by room, kicking in doors, tossing grenades up stairwells, praying each corner isn't your last. The Germans fight with desperate fury, knowing surrender means summary execution after the atrocities their SS brethren committed. By midnight, you hold half the town. The other half might as well be the moon. You're reloading in a looted cafe when Aldershot staggers in, clutching a bleeding arm. Fucking sniper, he hisses. The wound's clean, through and through. You rip a tablecloth for bandages. Where's your medic? Dead. He gulps stolen wine straight from the bottle. We're all medics now. Hayes kicks open the back door, his Thompson smoking. Found something you'll love. The something is a cellar, not for wine, but for interrogation. The chains are still warm. The floor's sticky with things you don't examine too closely. And in the corner, American uniforms. Dozens of them, stripped from captured paratroopers. Some bloodied, some torn, all empty. Danny picks up a 101st patch, his usual smirk absent. They were wearing these when... Yeah, Hayes cuts him off. Don't. The lieutenant appears in the doorway, his left ear bandaged. Move out. They're counterattacking at dawn. No one asks how he knows. You end up barricaded in a butcher's shop, its meat lockers repurposed for the dead. The stench of spoiled pork mixes with cordite, a perfume for the damned. Danny finds a radio miraculously intact. The BBC crackles through static. Allied forces have secured beachheads along a 50-mile front. General Eisenhower reports. Hayes shuts it off. 50 miles my ass. Somewhere outside, a German MG-42 starts its lethal cadence. Closer now. The lieutenant checks his watch. 2 hours till light. You lean against the cooler door, too tired to sleep, too wired to stay awake. The Luger feels heavier now. The girl's face floats behind your eyelids. Not frightened anymore, but fierce. Alive. That's what you're fighting for, isn't it? Not flags. Not orders. Just the chance for one more kid to grow up without knowing what a Gestapo interrogation room smells like. The thought carries you into the gray dawn, where the war waits with fresh teeth. Dawn over Corinton arrives like a reluctant witness, pale light creeping through shattered windows, illuminating what darkness had mercifully concealed. The butcher shop's tile floor, once pristine white, now resembles a Jackson Pollock painting in shades of crimson and gunpowder black. Danny prods a hanging sausage with his knife. Think these are still good. Hayes doesn't look up from cleaning his Thompson. Only one way to find out. The sausage turns out to be crawling with maggots. Danny shrugs and takes a bite anyway. Protein, he mumbles through the squirming mouthful. Outside, the Germans are singing. It starts as a lone voice, some young SS trooper with delusions of Wagnerian grandeur, soon joined by dozens more. The melody drifts through the rubble, a haunting counterpoint to the occasional sniper fire. Die von Hock, die Rehen fest geschlossen. Hayes tenses. You know what that is. You shake your head. Horst Wessel-Lied. Nazi anthem. He spits into the drain. They're psyching themselves up for the final push. As if on cue, the first mortar round lands 2 buildings over. Plaster rains from the ceiling. The radio, still miraculously functional, crackles to life with the lieutenant's voice. All units, stand to. They're coming. You take position at a loophole carved through the butcher's brick wall. The street outside looks like a film set for Armageddon. Cratered pavement, smoldering vehicles, the occasional limb protruding from piles of rubble. And beyond it all, movement. Lots of movement. The Germans advance in textbook formation. Panzer Grenadiers in their distinctive field gray, supported by 2 Stoogie 3 assault guns that clank forward like mechanical tortoises. Their infantry moves from cover to cover, laying down suppressing fire while their armor picks targets. Where the hell are our tanks? Danny hisses. As if summoned, a Sherman rounds the corner at suicidal speed, its 75 millimeters barking. The shell ricochets off the lead Stoogie's sloped armor in a shower of sparks. Before the Sherman can fire again, the German assault gun replies with a round that punches straight through the Sherman's turret ring. The explosion lifts the Sherman's hatches clean off. No one bails out. Shit, Hayes breathes. The surviving American crews fall back, leaving the Germans to consolidate their gains. Their infantry swarms over the Sherman like ants on a dead beetle, planting demolition charges to ensure it'll never fight again. Aldershot crawls in from the adjacent building, his bandages freshly bloodied. We've got maybe 5 minutes before they overrun this block. The lieutenant appears, his face haggard. New orders. Fall back to the church. We're setting up a final defensive line there. Danny gestures to the advancing Germans. And how exactly? With style? The lieutenant interrupts, producing a satchel charge from his pack. Hayes, take the left flank. O'Malley right. Rest of us will cover your advance. You stare at the olive drab bundle in his hands. It looks absurdly small for the destruction it promises. You want us to suicide run at Panzers? The lieutenant's smile could frost glass. I want you to distract them long enough for our PIT teams to get clean shots. He checks his watch. 60 seconds. Move. No time to argue. No time to think. Hayes slaps your shoulder, the closest he'll come to saying goodbye, and vanishes into the ruined storefronts to the left. Danny makes the sign of the cross upside down. For luck, he explains and scrambles right. You count down in your head. 30, 20, 10. The world erupts in gunfire as the remaining Americans open up with everything they've got. It won't kill many Germans, but it'll make them keep their heads down. You burst from cover, legs pumping, the satchel charge bouncing against your hip. The street stretches endlessly before you, every yard a lifetime. Bullets whip past, kicking up spurts of dust and stone. Something tugs at your sleeve, a near miss. The lead Stoogie's machine gun swivels toward you. You dive behind an overturned tram as the 7.92 millimeters rounds turn the other side into Swiss cheese. The satchel's timer ticks ominously in your hands. 3 seconds to arm. 1, 2, 3. You lob it over the tram in a high arc. The explosion rocks the street, showering everything in dirt and debris. Not enough to kill a Stoogie, but enough to blind it temporarily. Through the smoke, you see Hayes do the same on the left flank, his charge landing perilously close to the German infantry. The resulting chaos gives the British PIT teams their opening. 2 projectiles streak across the battlefield. One misses entirely, vanishing into the ruins. The other hits the lead Stoogie's tracks, sending it skidding sideways into a building. Cheers erupt from the American lines, prematurely. The second Stoogie fires. The shell impacts the church tower, sending bricks and bodies raining down. The German infantry seizes the moment to advance, their MP-40s chattering. You're about to make another suicidal dash when the unthinkable happens. The remaining Sherman, thought destroyed, lurches forward with its engine screaming. The wounded commander has somehow gotten it moving again, its damaged turret frozen, but the hull machine gun still operational. It rams the disabled Stooge at full speed, metal shrieking on metal. For a surreal moment, the two armored vehicles are locked in a death embrace. Then the Sherman's ammunition cooks off. The explosion knocks you flat. When your vision clears, both tanks are burning pyres. The German advance falters, their perfect formation broken. Now, the lieutenant yells. The counterattack hits like a sledgehammer. British and American troops surge forward, bayonets fixed, turning the orderly retreat into a rout. You join the charge, firing at anything that moves, the taste of blood and cordite thick on your tongue. Danny appears at your elbow, his face blackened by soot. Left. You spin just in time to see a German officer leveling his Luger. Your rifle's empty. The shot comes from behind you. The officer drops, clutching his throat. Hayes lowers his smoking Thompson. Keep moving. By noon, what's left of Corentin is yours. The Germans have pulled back to regroup, leaving behind their dead and enough equipment to outfit a small army. The church, though damaged, still stands. Its bell tower now home to an American sniper team watching for counterattacks. You slump against a bullet-pocked wall, suddenly aware of every bruise, every cut, every ounce of exhaustion weighing down your bones. Danny offers a canteen, real wine this time, looted from some SS officer's private stash. To the brave and stupid, he toasts. The wine burns going down, but you don't care. You're alive. Against all odds, you're alive. Aldershot limps over, his arm now properly bandaged. Heard about your stunt with the satchel charge. That was either the bravest or dumbest thing I've ever seen. Bit of both, you admit. He grins and produces a crumpled pack of German cigarettes. Compliments of the Third Reich. You're halfway through the smoke when the lieutenant approaches, his face grim. We're not done yet. He unfolds a map. Corentin's just one crossroads in a network of vital roads and bridges. Germans still hold these positions. Intel says they're bringing up reinforcements. Hayes studies the map, so we go get them first. The lieutenant nods. Rest up. We move at dusk. As the others disperse, you linger, staring at the map's blood-stained edges. Somewhere out there, beyond the smoke and ruin, the war waits. But for now, there's wine, there's smoke, and there's the simple, profound joy of still drawing breath. You take another drag and close your eyes, just for a moment. The cigarette burns down to your fingers before you notice. You flick it away absently, watching the ember arc into the puddle at your feet. One tiny light extinguished in the grand scheme of things. Around you, Corentin stirs like a wounded beast. Engineers string barbed wire where storefronts once stood. Medics haul stretchers toward the makeshift aid station in the bakery. Somewhere near the church, a chaplain drones through burial rites for the day's first batch of casualties. Danny plops down beside you, his eyebrows still missing but his grin intact. Look what crawled out of the woodwork. He jerks his thumb over his shoulder. Hayes approaches with two steaming mugs, his face unreadable as ever. Coffee. You take the offered mug. It's terrible. Burnt grains mixed with chicory and what tastes like motor oil, but it's hot. That counts for something. Intel's in, Hayes says, sipping his own brew like it's fine whiskey. 7th Armored rolled into town an hour ago. Tanks, artillery, the whole 9 yards. Danny whistles. Does that mean we get to sit this one out? Hayes' expression says everything. The rest lasts exactly 37 minutes. You're scraping mud from your boot treads when the lieutenant appears, his uniform miraculously pressed despite the surrounding apocalypse. Briefing in 5. Church basement. The church basement smells of mildew and death. Someone's propped up a captured German map of Normandy on the pulpit, its edges riddled with bullet holes. The lieutenant stands before it like a professor delivering a particularly grim lecture. Listen up, he says, tapping a spot northwest of Corentin. German 6th Parachute Regiments dug in here at Hill 30. They've got observation posts covering every approach to St. Lo. A collective groan ripples through the assembled paratroopers. St. Lo isn't just another town. It's the gateway to Brittany, a strategic nightmare of narrow streets and stone buildings perfect for defense. The lieutenant continues, unfazed. Our job is to take that hill before dawn tomorrow. 7th Armored will provide covering fire, but it's on us to clear those trenches. Danny raises a hand. And if we don't, then the entire push towards St. Lo gets bottlenecked. The lieutenant's gaze sweeps the room. Questions? There are none. What's left to ask? Outside, the first raindrops begin to fall. By nightfall, it's a deluge. The kind of rain that turns foxholes into bathtubs and rifles into useless metal clubs. You huddle under a salvaged awning with Hayes and Danny, passing around a bottle of something that might once have been brandy. Danny coughs after a swig. Tastes like antifreeze. Hayes shrugs. German engineering at its finest. The joke falls flat. Everyone's too busy counting down the hours, mentally preparing for what comes next. Hill 30 isn't just another objective. It's where the German paratroopers, their elite Fallschirmjäger, have dug in. Men just like you, but fighting for the wrong side. You're about to voice this thought when the girl appears. Not the cafe girl. This one's younger, maybe 12, her dress soaked through from the rain. She carries a basket covered with a checkered cloth, her eyes too old for her face. Pour les liberateurs, she murmurs, offering the basket. Under the cloth, fresh bread, a wheel of cheese, and, bizarrely, a single red rose. Danny takes the rose with exaggerated gallantry. For me? You shouldn't have. The girl doesn't smile. My brother grew these. Before. She trails off, but the meaning's clear. Hayes breaks the cheese into thirds. It's sharp and crumbly, the best thing you've tasted since England. The girl watches you eat with solemn satisfaction before vanishing back into the rain as silently as she came. Danny twirls the rose between his fingers. Think she likes me. Hayes doesn't answer. He's staring at the rose like it's a live grenade. Midnight brings a lull in the rain and the order to move out. You fall into line with the others, your gear weighing twice what it did this morning. The march to Hill 30 is a study in misery, mud sucking at your boots, rain trickling down your collar, the occasional distant crump of artillery reminding you that yes, this is still a war. Aldershot materializes from the gloom, his British smock blending seamlessly with the night. Heard about your promotion. You blink. What promotion? To bait, he says cheerfully. We're the anvil. Brits are the hammer. The plan is simple. Your company will assault the hill's eastern slope while British commandos hit the west. In theory, the Germans will be too busy to reinforce either side. In practice, it means you're walking into a meat grinder. The approach is worse than expected. The Germans have turned Hill 30 into a fortress. Interlocking trenches, machine gun nests with overlapping fields of fire, even a few dug-in anti-tank guns just in case. And they're waiting. The first mortar round lands 50 yards short, showering you with dirt. The second is dead on. Chaos. You hit the dirt as shrapnel whips overhead, the concussive blast rattling your teeth. Someone screaming, high and thin, like a rabbit in a trap. The lieutenant's voice cuts through the noise. Move. Now. You scramble forward on hands and knees, the mud sucking at your limbs like quicksand. Tracers stitch the night above you, their neon arcs beautiful and deadly. Ahead, the first trench line looms, a dark scar on the hillside. Hayes reaches it first, tossing a grenade over the lip before diving in. The explosion illuminates the trench for one horrific second. German paratroopers caught mid-reload, their faces frozen in shock. Then you're in among them, fighting with rifles, knives, entrenching tools, whatever comes to hand. A German lunges at you with a bayonet. You sidestep, driving your own bayonet into his gut. He gasps, hot blood gushing over your hands, his eyes wide with betrayal. He can't be older than 17. The thought almost paralyzes you, until Hayes yanks you sideways just as a bullet whips past where your head had been. Stay sharp, he growls. The trench is a nightmare of close-quarters butchery. You lose track of time, of direction, of anything but the next enemy, the next corner, the next heartbeat. Somewhere to your left, Danny's singing some obscene drinking song between kills, his voice ragged but steady. Then, miraculously, you break through. The second trench line is worse. The Germans knew you'd take the first, and they've prepared accordingly. The moment your boots hit the duckboards, machine guns open up from concealed positions. Men drop like wheat before the scythe. You press yourself into the trench wall as bullets chew the sandbags above your head. The lieutenant's down, a lucky shot through the thigh. Hayes drags him to cover while Danny lays down suppressing fire. Now would be a great time for that hammer. Danny yells over the gunfire. As if summoned, the night erupts with the staccato bark of British Sten guns. The German machine guns falter, their crews suddenly under attack from the rear. Aldershot's voice rings out. About bloody time. The counterattack is swift and brutal. Caught between two forces, the German paratroopers fight with desperate fury, but it's no use. By dawn, Hill 30 is yours. The cost is written in the trenches, bodies stacked like cordwood, blood pooling in the rain-filled craters. You lean against a captured MG-42 nest, your hands shaking too badly to light a cigarette. Danny does it for you, his own hands remarkably steady. First time killing one of our own, huh? You stare at him. False Germger. He clarifies, gesturing to a dead German paratrooper nearby. Same training. Same jumps. Just different flags. He exhales smoke. Gets easier. You're not sure you want it to. Hayes appears, his face haggard. LT's alive. Medics say he'll keep the leg. He nods toward the horizon, where the first hints of sunrise bleed through the clouds. We're to hold this position until relieved. Danny grins. So we get to sit out the St. Lo push? Lucky us. But luck's a fickle thing in war. As the sun climbs higher, so too does the German artillery barrage. They want Hill 30 back, and they're willing to pay in blood and steel to get it. The first shell lands at the base of the hill. The second is closer. The third. You wake up in the aid station, your head ringing like a cathedral bell. The world swims in and out of focus. Blurred faces, shouted orders, the metallic taste of blood in your mouth. Danny's voice, oddly strained. He'll live. Hard-headed bastard. Hayes, somewhere to your left. Medic says 24 hours before he's combat ready. A snort. Try telling the Germans that. The shelling hasn't stopped. If anything, it's intensified, the steady crump of incoming rounds growing closer with each salvo. Someone presses a canteen to your lips. The water's warm and tastes faintly of iodine. Drink up, kid, Danny says, his face swimming into view. One of his eyes is swollen shut, but he's still grinning. War's not over yet. As if to prove his point, the church bells begin to ring. Not the clear peals of victory, but the ragged clanging of a town under siege. St. Lo has begun. The church bells sound like artillery in your concussed skull. You blink against the harsh sunlight stabbing through the aid station's tattered canvas, each peal sending fresh waves of pain through your battered skull. The medic, a baby-faced kid who looks like he should be delivering milk, not morphine, presses you back onto the cot as you try to sit up. Easy, Sergeant, he says, mopping blood from your forehead with a rag that's seen too many patients. That shell knocked you silly, Sergeant. The stripes on your sleeve confirm it. Sometime between the trench fight and waking up here, someone decided you deserved a promotion. Probably because half the original NCOs are now fertilizer for Hill 30. Danny slouches in the tent's doorway, his swollen eye now a spectacular shade of purple. Morning, Sleeping Beauty. He tosses you a canteen. Don't get too comfortable. We're moving out in 20. The water tastes like heaven and metal. Where? St. Lo, he says, as if that explains everything. It doesn't. St. Lo is the stuff of nightmares. A medieval town turned fortress, its narrow streets perfect for ambushes, its stone buildings practically immune to artillery. Taking it will be like swallowing a porcupine. Hayes appears behind Danny, his Thompson slung across his back. LT's still down. You're in charge of 3rd Platoon. You stare at him. I don't even know 3rd Platoon. Now you do. He jerks his thumb toward the tent flap. Get dressed. The platoon, Turns out to be 19 exhausted men and one stray dog someone named Corporal. Most are replacements fresh off the boat. Their uniforms still crisp, their eyes still wide with that peculiar mix of terror and excitement that hasn't yet curdled into weary resignation. A private with a Brooklyn accent salutes too sharply. "Sergeant, Private Kowalski reporting for." "Save it." You interrupt, checking your watch. The face is cracked from the shell blast, but still ticking. "We move in 5. Stay sharp, stay quiet, and for Christ's sake, don't shoot anything unless it shoots first." The replacements exchange glances. They expected a speech, maybe some Patton-esque inspiration. Too bad. War isn't Hollywood, and you're no John Wayne. The march to St. Lo is a funeral procession in reverse. Instead of mourners, you've got grim-faced paratroopers. Instead of flowers, everyone carries enough ammunition to start a small war. The countryside reeks of death and diesel, the roads cratered from weeks of shelling. Danny falls in step beside you, his good eye scanning the tree line. "Heard about the airborne drop at St. Lo." You adjust your helmet strap. "What about it?" Whole stick landed right on the German command post. By the time they realized what happened, he makes a popping sound with his lips. Hayes grunts. "Lucky bastards." The first shells hit as you're crossing a bombed-out orchard. Not the sporadic potshots from Hill 30, but the full-throated roar of coordinated artillery. The ground heaves like a living thing, throwing you into the dirt as shrapnel winds overhead. "Spread out." You yell, but the replacements are already panicking, bunching up like frightened sheep. A shell lands dead center. When the smoke clears, there's no screaming, no cries for help, just pink mist settling on the apple trees. You count heads. 12 left. Corporal the dog whines, pressing against your leg. Danny spits out dirt. "Welcome to St. Lo." The outskirts are worse than intel suggested. What was once a charming Norman town now resembles a mad architect's nightmare. Crumbling walls, streets blocked by landslides of rubble, the occasional disembodied hand protruding from the wreckage. And everywhere, the stench. Rotting food, burning rubber, and beneath it all, that sweet putrid tang of corpses left too long in the summer heat. You signal a halt near a shattered bakery. The replacements collapse against the walls, their faces gray with exhaustion. One, the Brooklyn kid, is shaking too badly to light his cigarette. You take the matches from him. First time, he nods, his Adam's apple bobbing. "Didn't think it'd be like this." No one ever does. Hayes returns from scouting ahead, his face grim. Germans have the main square locked down. Machine guns in the church tower, snipers in the hotel, and what looks like a fucking Panther tank covering the bridge. Danny whistles. "So we go around." "Can't." Hayes unfolds a crumpled map. All routes converge there. It's the only way across the river. You study the map, tracing potential approaches with a grimy finger. Every option is bad. Straight up the main street. Suicide. Through the sewers? Probably mined. Along the riverbank? Exposed to enemy fire the entire way. Corporal the dog growls at something in the rubble. You freeze. So does everyone else. A sound, not artillery, not gunfire. The unmistakable click of a boot on broken glass. German. Close. You raise a fist, signaling silence. The replacements hold their breath. Even the dog goes still. The footsteps pause. A cigarette lighter flicks, once, twice, before catching. The scent of cheap tobacco drifts through the ruins. They haven't spotted you yet. Hayes mouths a word. Flank. You nod, motioning two replacements to follow as you creep through the bakery's collapsed rear wall. The alley beyond is a death trap. Narrow, exposed, littered with debris that could give away your position with one misstep. Step. Pause. Listen. The German's still there, humming tunelessly to himself. Some Wagner aria, maybe. The arrogance of it sets your teeth on edge. This bastard's so confident in his army's position that he's taking a smoke break mid-battle. You round the corner in a crouch, rifle ready. He's younger than expected, maybe 19, his uniform too big for his lanky frame. No helmet, just a field cap tilted back at a cocky angle. His rifle leans against the wall beside him as he exhales a lazy smoke ring. For a surreal moment, you consider letting him live. Then he turns. His eyes widen. His mouth opens. You shoot him twice in the chest. The sound echoes off the rubble, impossibly loud. The German slides down the wall, leaving twin streaks of red on the cracked plaster. His cigarette rolls across the cobblestones, still burning. The replacements stare at the corpse, their faces pale. Check his pockets. You order, scanning the surrounding windows for movement. They hesitate. Now, one of them, a farm boy from Iowa, finds a folded letter and a photo of a blonde girl. He hands them to you like they're sacred relics. You skim the letter. Standard fare. Miss you. Stay safe. The war will be over soon. The photo shows the German and the girl at some lakeside resort, their faces alight with the careless joy of people who don't yet know how the world works. You tuck both into the dead man's shirt, over his heart. Move out. The alley dumps you onto a side street relatively clear of debris. Ahead, the river glints between buildings, its stone bridges still intact. Too intact. Trap, Hayes mutters. No shit. The Germans want you to think the bridges are safe, to funnel you into the Panthers' kill zone. Danny points downstream. There, a partially collapsed footbridge. Its railings gone, but the structure still standing. It's risky. One well-placed mortar could send the whole thing into the river, but it's the only option. You signal the replacements forward. Single file. Stay low. The bridge creaks ominously underfoot, its timbers groaning like a living thing. Below, the river swirls dark and fast, carrying away bits of debris from the shattered town. Halfway across, Corporal the dog stops, his ears pricked. Then you hear it too. Engines. Not just the Panther. Trucks, maybe half-tracks, moving toward the bridge from the north. Reinforcements. Run. You make it to the far bank just as the first German vehicles round the corner. The Panther's turret swivels with terrifying precision, its long 75mm gun seeking targets. The replacements freeze like rabbits in headlights. Take cover. You bellow, shoving the nearest man behind a stone wall as the Panther fires. The shell obliterates the footbridge in a shower of splinters. The concussion knocks you flat, your ears ringing like cathedral bells. When your vision clears, the Panther's grinding forward, its machine gun stitching the cobblestones. Hayes drags you upright. We need to. A bazooka team emerges from a cellar across the street. Two GIs with the 1,000-yard stare of veterans. Their rocket slams into the Panther's side skirt in a shower of sparks. No penetration. The Panther's machine gun cuts them down before they can reload. Danny curses. Now what? The answer comes from above, a shrieking whistle growing louder by the second. Everyone dives for cover as the P-47 screams overhead, its wings glittering with rockets. They streak down like avenging angels, slamming into the Panther with unerring accuracy. The tank erupts in a fireball, its ammunition cooking off in a series of pops that sound eerily like fireworks. The replacements cheer. You don't, because now the P-47's making another pass, this time strafing the German trucks with its .50 calories. One truck explodes, then another, the concussive blast shaking the ground beneath you. Then, silence. The plane banks west, its mission accomplished. The street is a charnel house of burning vehicles and scattered body parts. The stench of roasting flesh mixes with cordite, a perfume for the damned. Danny wipes soot from his face. Think that's our ride into the square. The surviving truck sits miraculously intact, its canvas cover flapping in the breeze. Hayes checks the cab, dead driver, but the keys are still in the ignition. Mount up, you say? The truck rumbles to life, its engine sounding obscenely loud in the sudden quiet. You pile in back with the replacements, rifles trained on the surrounding ruins. Every shadow could hide a sniper. Every window could conceal a Panzerfaust team. But the Germans are in disarray, their reinforcements now scattered across the street in bloody chunks. The truck rolls unchallenged through the corpse-littered streets, past burning buildings and abandoned positions, until the square, or what's left of it. The medieval marketplace is a cratered wasteland, its once elegant facades reduced to skeletal remains. The church tower still stands, but its famous spire is gone, sheared off by artillery. And everywhere, bodies. American, German, civilian, all equal in death. You signal a halt near the shattered fountain. The replacements fan out, their rifles sweeping for threats. Corporal the dog growls at something in the ruins. A whimper. Human. Alive. You approach cautiously, rifle ready. The sound's coming from beneath a collapsed colonnade, where a single intact arch shelters a figure in tattered civilian clothes. A girl. Not the cafe girl or the flower girl. This one's older, maybe 16, her dress torn and bloodied. She clutches a bundle to her chest. No, not a bundle. A baby. Her eyes lock onto yours, wide with terror. Ne tires pas, she whispers. S'il vous plaît. You lower your rifle. Danny moves to help her, but she shrinks back, clutching the infant tighter. The baby doesn't cry, doesn't move at all. Hayes understands first. He crosses himself, something you've never seen him do before. The girl rocks back and forth, her lips moving in silent prayer. Whether for the child or herself, you'll never know. Some wounds don't bleed, some scars don't show, and some wars never really end. The girl's hollow eyes follow you long after you leave her in the ruins. Corporal the dog whines, pressing his snout into your palm as you regroup in the shattered remains of St. Louis Town Hall. The replacements cluster around a captured German radio, their faces lit by its faint glow as a BBC broadcast crackles through static. Allied forces have broken through at St. Lo. Repeat, St. Lo has fallen. No one cheers. The words feel meaningless here, in this corpse-choked square where the stench of burning flesh still hangs thick. Danny leans against a toppled marble column, methodically cleaning his rifle with a rag soaked in stolen German oil. His usual quips died hours ago, extinguished somewhere between the Panther tank and the dead baby. Hayes materializes from the shadows, his Thompson slung across his back like a grim talisman. Church is clear, he says, jerking his thumb toward the skeletal remains of the spire. Found something you need to see. The climb to the bell tower feels like ascending through the layers of hell. Each step reveals fresh horrors. A sniper's nest fashioned from a choir pew, bloodstained hymnals stacked like sandbags, a false German's body still draped over the broken bells where your grenade tossed him. At the summit, the view steals your breath. St. Lo spreads below like a corpse dissected for autopsy, its streets gaping wounds, its buildings shattered ribs. But beyond the ruins, something else. Fields of sunlight, golden and endless, rolling toward the horizon where the war hasn't yet reached. For the first time in weeks, you remember there's still a France beyond the killing grounds. Hayes nudges a rusted metal box with his boot. Look! Inside, a map case stuffed with documents. Not tactical reports, interrogation transcripts. Pages upon pages of inked confessions, each stamped with a blood-red verified and signed by the same officer, Obersturmbannführer Klaus Reinhardt. The butcher of Cannes. Your fingers tighten on the papers. These aren't military secrets. Their names. Hundreds of them. French resistance fighters, their families, their safe houses. The same list the general confiscated and presumably burned. Yet here they are. Danny whistles softly. Guess Reinhardt kept copies for himself. Hayes' jaw works silently before he grinds out. That bastard general knew the Millists were still hunting these people even after we took Corentin. The implications hit like a mortar round. All those mop-up operations, all those mysterious night raids, not hunting Germans, eliminating witnesses. A gust of wind rattles the broken bell overhead, its mournful clang echoing across the ruins. Somewhere below, Corporal the dog begins to howl. You stare at the lists, at the sunlight beyond, at the blood staining your boots. The war isn't over, but this you can finish. Gather the men, you say, tucking the papers inside your smock where the girl's Luger still rests. We're taking a detour. Danny arches what's left of his eyebrows. Back to Corentin, you adjust your sergeant's stripes, the ones you never asked for but now wear with grim purpose, and start down the stairs. First, we return a rose. The cafe stands exactly where you left it, its shattered windows now boarded up, its door hanging crooked on broken hinges. The girl isn't outside scrubbing steps this time. She's waiting at a corner table when you enter, her hands wrapped around a chipped teacup. Older, wiser. wearing a man's work shirt and a pistol tucked conspicuously in her waistband. "You came back," she says, her voice flat. Not a question, an accusation. You slide the documents across the table, the names facing up where she can see them. "These belong to you." Her fingers tremble as she touches the top page. A confession signed by her brother Pierre, dated the day before the chateau burned. For the first time since Normandy began, someone looks at you without flinching, without fear. The dog whines at your feet, his tail thumping once against the floorboards. Outside, the church bells begin to ring, not the frantic clanging of battle, but the measured peals of Sunday Mass. Of a town learning to live again. Danny leans against the doorframe, his grin creeping back like sunrise after a storm. "Told you she liked me."